Hi everyone, Danielle Rubio, somatic therapist and creator of the Soma Lumos method. And I want to talk about something so powerful for your healing journey today, and that is inner child healing. So I spent an entire year back when I was moving through this big dark night of the soul and healing my nervous system. And I spent an entire year at that point through a many-year healing period, specifically on the inner child. And I was shocked by what actually worked. So I want to share that with you because right now, as the world turns, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of suffering right now. And quite frankly, the world is pretty bonkers. And I know in hindsight of my own healing journey, as well as leading hundreds and hundreds of people around the globe through their own, that now more than ever, it's time for us to turn into the versions of ourselves that can heal this world, that can completely turn this ship around. And I know there's a lot of noise out there. And one of the biggest components of your healing journey and healing your trauma and healing your programming so that you can move from where you are now to who you deserve to be and who it is that is your birthright to be, it involves working with the inner child. So we're going to discuss all things inner child today. And I'm going to give you the 3 things that actually worked for healing my inner child. And I'll tell you now, it wasn't just journaling. It wasn't repeating affirmations in the mirror. It definitely wasn't endlessly talking about my childhood until I understood every single detail. The 3 things that actually changed me were much deeper, much more embodied, and honestly, way more confronting than I expected. And that's what I mean at the beginning of this when I said, what actually shifted things for me and healed my inner child were pretty surprising for me. The third one was the one that I resisted the most in hindsight. And so I'm wanting to share all this with you so you have a much easier time with this. As I said, it is such an important topic to cover when we're working with somatic work, when we're working with the nervous system, when we're working with healing old wounds, old patterns, healing old traumas. We got to address that little one inside. And so I want to make sure that you are not blindsided in the ways that I was blindsided, and you have a much easier go with this. So in this video, I'm going to share what your inner child actually is, why that younger part of you gets wounded, and the 3 practices that helped me stop relating to myself like I was the problem. Definitely stick around for the second one because this is the piece that helped old memories finally begin to lose their charge in my body. That's what most people miss. Inner child healing is not just about remembering what happened to you. It's also about learning how to finally be with the part of you that had to survive. But before I share the 3 things that actually worked, we need to talk about what your inner child actually is, right? Because a lot of people either overcomplicate this or dismiss it as some cute little healing trend. And it's much deeper than that. Your inner child is the part of you that still carries the emotional imprint of your earliest experiences. You might want to pause and write that down. Okay, that's an important piece to understand. It is the part of you that had to keep questioning. Is it safe to need? Is it safe to be seen? Is it safe to be messy? Is it safe to express anger? Is it safe to cry? Is it safe to be loved as I am? Long before your adult mind could analyze your life, your nervous system was already learning what love, safety, connection, and belonging felt like or didn't feel like. So when people talk about the wounded inner child, they're often talking about the younger parts of us that had to adopt to emotional pain, or the younger version of your psyche that had to adopt to emotional pain. So for example, maybe you ended up becoming a good girl or the overachiever or the caretaker or the hyper independent one, the one who never needed too much, or the one who could read the room before any said a word, the one who learned to earn love by being easy or impressive, agreeable, helpful, successful, being quiet or strong or invisible. And I want you to pay attention to which one of those lands in your body, because the role you had to play as a child often becomes the nervous system pattern that you keep repeating as an adult. That is where this gets important, so listen carefully. Because we grow up, we become adults. We build lives, careers, relationships, families, businesses, right? We grow up, we're adults now. But those younger parts, they don't just disappear. They show up in the way that we react. They show up in the way that we attach to things or people, the way that we shut down, the way that we overgive, the way that we panic when someone pulls away, the way we feel shame for having needs, the way that we abandon ourselves to keep a connection going. And this is why your adult reactions can sometimes feel much bigger than what's happening in the present moment, actually. Because sometimes the part of you reacting in the present is not the adult you. It's the little one inside. It's the younger you who still doesn't feel safe. And this is where the first practice for me that worked, that changed everything. The first thing that actually worked sounds almost too simple, but it was the foundation for everything else that followed in my healing path. And without this piece, inner child healing can easily become another way to analyze yourself instead of actually meeting yourself. So the first thing was learning how to listen deeply. And I don't mean thinking about my childhood. I mean listening with my body, listening with my senses, listening in, turning inward. There's a very big difference. So most people try to heal their inner child from the neck up. That's how most people are trying to heal everything. And really, when you think about it, like what we are healing is our inner child. We are healing our childhood. Okay, so people might try to journal or talk about it endlessly in talk therapy. They analyze, they reflect, they write things down, they explain it over and over. And these things can be supportive. They can be beautiful sometimes, but the wounded inner child often speaks through sensation before language. And I want you to really hear this part because this is one of the biggest shifts for me. Your inner child might not have ever said, I feel abandoned, right? It's going to show up as a tight chest, a collapsed belly, a frozen throat, a sudden wave of shame, a panic response when someone doesn't text back, a shutdown when there's conflict, a deep ache when you feel unseen. Your body is often the doorway, okay? So instead of asking what is wrong with me, when I was on this healing journey many years ago, I started asking different questions. I started asking, what is this part of me trying to tell me? Where am I feeling this in my body? How old does this feeling seem? How old am I sensing this? Can I connect with this younger part of me and get some answers, get some clarity? What does this younger part need me to understand, need me to hear? And this changes the entire relationship because instead of attacking my anxiety or my sensitivity or my fear or cutting off from these parts of me that are feeling uncomfortable, I began approaching these experiences as communication, as my body wanting to talk to me, as my little one wanting to talk to me by way of my body. So this is the piece almost every modality out there is missing. We try to get rid of the feeling before we ever listen to what the feeling is protecting and what it's trying to get us to hear. One of the most powerful things you can do for your inner child is pause when you feel activated and simply say internally, I'm listening. In a real way, hand on the heart, feet on the ground, soften into your body, notice what you feel, and tell yourself, I'm listening. Visualize your little one, 5, 6 years old. See her in your vision and say, I'm listening. And sometimes what comes up is really simple. It's simply, I'm scared. I don't want to be left. I don't feel important. I'm feeling too much. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling scared. I'm afraid I'm going to fall. These younger parts of us often don't need a perfect answer from us. They need attunement. Attunement is being with. That's it. Being with. To put it really simply, attunement is being with. It's like holding space for your inner child. They need to feel that we are no longer abandoning them the way they once felt abandoned. And this is where inner child healing becomes so profound, because the more that you keep trying to numb out your experiences, numb out these uncomfortable sensations and emotions, you're literally abandoning that little one that couldn't feel you were younger either, because you begin becoming the safe adult your younger self needed. That doesn't mean that you never get triggered again. It means that when you do get triggered, you stop leaving yourself. And once I learned how to listen, something bigger opened, because listening helped me find the core wound, the root of the wound. So now listen, the second practice helped my body stop living inside of the wound, though. And if you've ever wondered why you can understand your past but still feel triggered, this next piece really matters. So listen carefully. The second thing that deeply surprised me, really, in hindsight, and healing my inner child, was how absolutely life-changing memory reprocessing is. Because I used to think healing meant remembering the past clearly, understanding it logically. I thought if I could just figure out why I was the way I was, then I would be free. And understanding is helpful, of course. It gives you language. It gives you awareness, right? It helps to stop judging certain patterns. But awareness alone is not going to shift the wound, because the nervous system doesn't just store memories as stories, right? So when we really want to get to the root of the wound, we got to get in that wound, because your brain is storing these, and your body is storing these as felt experiences as well, not just something in the thinking brain. It's a body experience. So you remember this in sensations, you remember in emotional states, you remember in protective responses your body's automatically doing. A memory might be over in time, but if the body never got to process it, the nervous system can still respond as though it is happening right now. This is kind of the crux of somatic healing and nervous system healing, right? You're responding as if it's happening now. And this is why you can know logically that you're safe, but your body's still going to react the way the body's going to react. The same sensations, emotions are going to come up, no matter how much you logically understand anything. So stay with me here. Once you understand this piece, so many of your adult triggers are going to make all the sense. So this is why an adult relationship can suddenly bring up a childlike level of fear. A small moment of rejection can feel enormous. Criticism can send you into a collapsed state. Someone's silence can make your whole body feel unsafe or like you're on edge. A boundary can feel like absolute abandonment, or you setting a boundary can feel like the most terrifying thing in the world. Like your heart is beating like crazy, like the body's still doing what it's going to do, no matter how much you understand. The normal conflict is going to feel like danger. So you're not overreacting randomly here. Your nervous system is responding to an old template. You're running an old program, and you're doing the behaviors, doing the actions according to this old program. So memory reprocessing helps because it allows the body and brain to update the emotional charge around the old experience. It's not about forcing yourself to relive trauma. It's not about digging through every painful memory until you feel totally raw. But it's about creating enough safety in the present moment so that the past can finally move, the past can metabolize, the past can reorganize, the program starts recoding. And honestly, almost every single healing method out there, even in the somatic healing space, honestly, they aren't fully reprocessing memories. There might be like somatic tracking work, or there's parts work out there. There's different ways of regulating the nervous system and feeling the emotions that are rooted in the memories, right? That's all amazing, epic. But real memory reprocessing occurs when the younger part of you experiences something new while touching the old wound. In other words, you need to give that inner child an opportunity to experience something else from that traumatic memory other than what was actually experienced. Absolutely beautiful fact that I really want you to embed and memorize is that your nervous system does not know the difference between reality and imagination, okay? This is why this work is possible. So the goal is not necessarily to erase the past. The goal is to give your body a new experience of safety around what once felt unbearable. For example, maybe as a child, you felt alone in your fear. So during a memory reprocessing session, you're giving little you, this younger part, gets to experience an adult showing up, an adult witnessing you, an adult protecting you, an adult saying, I see what happened. I believe you. You're not alone. You did not deserve that. It's not your fault. And I'm here now. And then actually moving your body in a way that's going to allow your inner child to move the action that it would have wanted to do, that the nervous system would have wanted to do. And so all of this, I will caution to say, is best not to be done on your own. I'm a very big advocate. You know, if you've been following along with me on here or on Instagram, you've probably heard me say multiple times before this that this kind of work is really best done with an experienced guide. And this is why I think if we're going to really get into the belly of the beast and we're going to come out the other side in our nervous system healing and in our somatic therapy practices, which in my almost 18 years in the wellness industry are absolutely the most effective, from what I've experienced myself in many, many infinite healing modalities, and from what I've seen in all my students from around the globe and from my private clients, somatic work, nervous system repair work are really the cream of the cappuccino. Okay, they really are what is going to get you all the way. I will say, however, they're really most effective when they're done with someone who has gone through this portal themselves. Okay, a guide. And there's only so much that you're going to be able to do on your own, honestly, because humans are meant to heal together. We really are all one, and we are meant to heal in connection, relationship, because that's where the wounds began. We're in connection and in relationship. Okay, there was a severing, and part of the way we heal is by healing with another and with someone who is an expert guide who is not going to let you sabotage yourself. If you go at it alone, at some point, you're going to hit a glass ceiling. Okay, so you want a teacher, you want a guide, first and foremost, so that you don't sabotage, which is really easy to do. Like when you're really wanting this, when you're really wanting the truth of who you are, and you really want to go the other way, this work is not for the faint of heart. It's really easy to sabotage this journey. And you're going to want somebody who is able to pick you up off the side of the road when you do fall, because we're going to fall. The deeper you go in this work, the more there's a chance to fall off. And you're going to want somebody who's right there with you. So often, right when you're about to have a breakthrough in this work, because of the way the brain works, because of the way the nervous system works, that's often when there's a self-sabotage that kicks in. And you're going to need somebody who's going to recognize that that's what's happening, who's going to grab your hand and is going to put you back on your track. So I know I digress a little bit with that, but it's just, it is really important to understand that this work is going to take you all the way. This work is going to take you to the most powerful, aligned, peaceful you that you deserve to be. And you need somebody who's gone before. It is the way it is. So that was a digression. I want to speak to next. You know, one of the biggest shifts for me in healing my inner child was realizing that my younger self didn't need me to erase the past. She needed me to meet her inside of my past with a new kind of safety. That is how old emotional loops begin to change. The body gets a new ending. The memory becomes less charged. The nervous system stops organizing your entire life around a wound that is no longer happening in the present. And this is where inner child healing becomes alchemy. You are taking the places that once held pain, shame, abandonment, fear, confusion, and you're slowly bringing them into contact with love, protection, and presence. Not overnight, not perfectly, but consistently. And consistency matters. So to recap a bit here, listening helps you hear the younger part, right? And the memory reprocessing helps the old wound begin to soften. So, all right, drum roll for number 3. Probably the biggest like domino effect fall of my healing. The third piece is where I had to stop performing healing and actually become safe for myself. And this one sounds the softest. It might sound the softest for you, but for me and for all my clients, it was actually probably the hardest one to do. Number 3 is the hardest step, actually, in practice. Maybe not in theory, but in practice, it's the hardest. And so this third thing that worked for healing my inner child was learning how to love my inner child and myself unconditionally. And I know that sounds almost far too simple, like, okay, I'm supposed to love myself and everything's going to change. That's not what I'm meaning here. And also remember, it's very different when you're just saying it and thinking it compared to doing it, right? So I mean, learning how to relate to myself differently in the exact moments that I used to turn against myself. This is where the work is. I've said it before a million times. Those of you who know me know I've said it so many times. Nothing changes if nothing changes. It's easy to love the polished version of yourself, the productive version, the regulated version, the spiritual version, the successful version, the version that has it all together, right? But can you love you when you feel jealous? Can you love you when there's neediness present that you feel? When there's a need for reassurance? Can you love the part that feels small, the part that is angry, the part that wants to run, the part that feels ashamed for still hurting? This is where a lot of people abandon their inner child all over again, literally doing the same thing that created the original wounds, leaving that little one. We say we want to heal her, but when she actually shows up through messy feelings, the fear, the insecurity, the sensitivity, we shame her. We tell that little girl to calm down. We tell her she's too much. We tell her she should be over it by now. We tell her she's being dramatic. She's crazy. She's in a rage. We treat her exactly the way she was treated before. And then we wonder why the wound just gets louder. Because your body, your wounds, your little girl, she's just trying to be heard. So this realization really broke something open in me. I started to realize that by me loving myself when these sensations would arise or when I'd make mistakes and then there'd be a trigger around it, or when I would act on a trigger, or I would do something from a place of the fear or the anger, I realized that by loving myself, I was loving the little girl who didn't get the love when she made mistakes. So I was literally rewriting this code for myself. I was rewriting the program by staying loving with myself. And let me tell you something, knowing this is not the same thing. Like telling yourself, okay, I got to love myself when I make mistakes, right? The affirmation pitfall that so many people fall into that I'm sorry to say it does not work. When you're in the thick of it and it's just, oh, I'm trying to love myself. It's not the same as actually when you're feeling broken to actually still love yourself. That's where the rubber meets the road. Like, oh my God, I feel like I'm breaking inside. I'm breaking. Can I literally feel this emotion of love for myself, for my little girl? Can I fully drop into that? Okay, I'm listening. I love you. I'm listening. I know this is scary. It's all right. It's all right. I know you've been acting in this rush way to try to control everything. It's all right. It's okay. I'm right here. And you're literally just loving yourself to not act in the way of the fear, but act in the way of what would this look like if I'm completely just loving myself unconditionally right now. So we rewrite the program by staying loving. Even when I was feeling terrified, or even when I was in a rage, by staying in the love with myself, not as a concept, right? Again, you have to experience this. By staying in the love, all the recoding takes place. So if this is pulling at your heartstrings right now, if there's something inside of you that's like, okay, yeah, and you're feeling like you want to get fully into this work, you're like, I'm ready to put the pedal to the metal and come out the other side of this, then again, it's important to do these practices, to have a guide, get in a group, find a teacher, find a group, find a container where you're going to actually be doing the work so that this doesn't just stay like a nice idea that you heard on YouTube, right? Let me tell you, when you actually take this all the way, it's going to change your entire life. It's going to change every cell in your body. When you actually start practicing where the rubber meets the road, you actually start practicing this loving yourself when you're angry. It's not even something I can really describe to you in words. You've got to get inside. You've got to do it as this experience, be in this experience of it. And you start cracking that code. Who you are, you literally are unshakable. You become unstoppable. So one little practice I'll give to you right now that I used to do was placing a hand on my heart and placing a hand on my belly and speaking directly to that little girl inside. And I know there's some men watching, so also speaking to that little boy inside, speaking to that little one inside. And you're saying, I know this feels scary. I know you learned to protect yourself this way. I'm not mad at you. This makes sense. I'm here now. You can move slowly. You don't have to earn love for me. You don't have to perform to be worthy. And at first, as you're doing this, it might feel awkward, but give it a few goes. Okay? Give it a try. Especially if self-love was not modeled for you as a little one, especially if your nervous system learned that vulnerability was dangerous, especially if you spent years being a strong one, the capable one, the one who never needed anything. Try that little practice on. Over time, it's going to build these new attachment wirings for yourself and for all your relations, right? You become less dependent on the outside world to prove your worth every second. You begin trusting yourself to stay. You stop outsourcing safety to other people's moods, approval, availability, or attention. And that's huge because a wounded inner child is often going to look for rescue. Whereas the healed inner child learns she has an adult self who can guide, protect, nurture, and love her. That does not mean we don't need people. We absolutely need connection. We are wired for connection. But when there's a different quality, when you are no longer asking every relationship to repair for the original wound, that's where your power lies. Then you love from more fullness. You can ask for what you need with more clarity and conviction. You can hold boundaries without collapsing into guilt. You can receive care without feeling terrified it's going to disappear. You can be close to someone without abandoning yourself. That is the deeper gift of this inner child healing. You do not become somebody else to earn love. You are whole. And now I want to bring these three pieces together because we've talked about a lot here. So I'm going to wrap this up, bring this together in a very concise way that you can imprint in your memory. So this becomes really real for you. So it's not just a mental thing, right? Let's start embedding this. So the three things that actually worked were listening deeply, memory reprocessing, and learning how to love the younger parts of yourself without abandoning the adult woman. And the reason these worked is because they were not just mindset shifts. They worked with the nervous system. They worked with the body. They worked with memory. They worked with attachment itself. They worked with the parts that needed safety, right? Not more self-improvement, but safety. And this is why I don't believe inner child healing can stay only in the mind. I mean, clearly, if you've been listening to this whole thing, you probably realize that too, because your inner child does not only live in your thoughts, right? As I've gone over in this video, it's in your attachment patterns, it's in your behaviors, it's in your triggers, the emotional triggers, sensational triggers, the fear, all these impulses is where it lives. It lives in the body. Healing has to be in these places too, then. Healing has to be in the body. So you can't shame your way into safety. You can't analyze yourself into safety. You can't bypass the younger parts of you and expect them to feel loved. Let me say that again. You cannot bypass the younger parts of you and expect them to feel loved. You have to build a relationship with them slowly, honestly, tenderly, with enough structure and support that your system can actually receive it. And this is exactly why I've created my two big signature offerings, my Rise to Renaissance Retreat and my one-to-one program, The Unshakable Woman. Rise to Renaissance Retreat is a group. It's exquisite. And of course, the one-to-one program is just you and I. But both this in-person retreat, Rise to Renaissance, and this one-to-one program are very high-touch, bespoke programs that quite literally close the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. Both are equally, absolutely life-changing and amazing. Some women actually do both. A lot of women actually do both. So you can check both of these offerings out in the description. I'll put some links there and you can see what calls to you. And if you're not fully ready to go into the deep end with me, though I will say that's really where you're going to meet your highest self. But if you're not quite ready for that yet, there's also my Rewired to Rise course, which is a do-it-yourself 21-day nervous system course where I'm guiding you through somatic practices, nervous system tools, body-based healing experiences that help you stop thinking about your patterns and actually begin working with the root of them. Because so many of the things we call anxiety, overthinking, emotional shutdown, the people-pleasing, the hyper-independence, they're all actually nervous system patterns that learn to protect us. And when your body begins learning safety in a new way, then there's new pathways for the nervous system to program to. So in all of my work, what I'm doing is helping you relate to yourself. So you're shifting to relate to yourself in a very high, empowered, clear, peaceful way. In the way you respond to stress, we're shifting the way you respond to stress internally, the way you're responding to stress externally, how you are in relationship. You shift the way you abandon yourself when life gets uncomfortable. And in my world, we aren't simply doing this for ourselves, right? I mean, It's already cataclysmic being able to completely recode your nervous system so that you become unshakable and unstoppable. You become this living, breathing, limitless spirit, knowing her worth, her sovereignty, knowing her full agency of power and peace. That's already cataclysmic, I know. And we're also not just doing it for us. We're doing it so this ripples out into your family, your loved ones. This ripples into your purpose, your career, so that we can start healing this planet, okay? And we can heal this planet for not just the little girl inside, but for all little girls. So if this video spoke to you, if it inspired something deep inside of you, and you're ready to begin healing at the level of the body, then I'll leave links to all my offerings below, and you can have a peek at all of them, have a deep dive into all of them, see what is calling to your heart so that you begin rising from the parts of you that once had to survive. Until next time.